The bottom 99% are not your enemy. Trans people and immigrants aren't the reason your eggs are expensive. They're not the reason you can't afford a house.
From Ghana to Canberra to the world stage, Genesis Owusu has carved out a reputation as one of the most daring voices in Australian music. A 7-time ARIA winner who's played at major festivals and earned a spot on Barack Obama's playlist, he's now putting the finishing touches on his third album.
Kofi, such a pleasure.
How you doing, man?
Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
You obviously moved with your family from Ghana when you were 2. What was it like growing up in Canberra?
Yeah, I mean, it was very, very weird coming and me and my family being like pretty much the only black people in our general vicinity. It was weird for me and it was weird for the other people as well who just like didn't really interact with black people either. But I think as I grew up, I kind of saw it as a perfect escape for me. It was such a blank canvas that I could just color it in all the different colors that I wanted to color. You know, it wasn't like a Sydney or a Melbourne where all of these things were always happening and there was such an easy movement to follow a trend here. You know, it was kind of just, especially if you wanted to be an artist, you kind of had to forge your own path. And the reason I'm still there is it's such a tranquil base. Like after the chaos of touring and traveling, it's so nice to just be able to come home to somewhere where it's just quiet.
It's really nice like that you're saying that as well, because as someone who's from Canberra, every time I speak to people from Sydney, and I'm sure like in other cities around Australia, they describe Canberra as this place you go in year 5 excursions, you just go to the Parliament House. But like I'm the same as you, I feel like it's this really beautiful place where you can sort of just stop and slow down.
Always thought I was living a lie. Living a lie. Always thought I was living a lie.
You've built these amazing worlds on your albums and stuff like that, and you've also spoken about, you know, depression and racism. I'd like to know, like, is this something that you still experience today, and has it changed with kind of being Genesis Owusu?
That's a great question. I think with something like depression, I think it's always something that is part of my story. It changes from era to era, for lack of a better term. So I think it's something that is always part of my story, but its involvement in my life changes. In regards to racism, I think I've been able to learn that so much of racism really comes from a lack of being able to like singularly identify someone. So for example, a racist attitude would be like, black people are like this, Asian people are like this, white people are like this. But the more I became Genesis Owusu, I wasn't just a black person, I was now Genesis Owusu. So it's like even someone with racist attitudes, because they've seen the way I post on Instagram and the way I speak on my music, it breaks the mold of what they think a black person is, even though what they think a black person is wrong anyway. But because there is a singular identity to it, they're like, oh, I guess this one, this is one of the good ones, for example. But yeah, I've seen a lot of people, especially like celebrities, you know, Lil Wayne, for example. He's like, yeah, racism kind of like doesn't exist anymore. I've never felt it, I don't feel it, I haven't felt it in the last 20 years or whatever. And I think it's a symptom of that. So I'm very aware that it still definitely exists, but it's really interesting kind of going through this motion of seeing the levels that a black person or a person of color might have to reach to start seeing the exit of something like that.
A tale of black dogs with golden leashes. Broken stories told facetious.
You have, you know, explored so much like in terms of world building on albums and like concepts, and you know, you've had the black dog, you've had the roach in Struggler. Is there going to be a similar sort of concept for album 3?
No. Album 3 is very much in the here and now. It's a real point of difference from my other albums because like you said, the other albums are very fantastical, very literary, very much exist in their own world. But this one exists in this world, in the 2020s, here on Earth. Didn't feel right for there to be some grand character or some grand metaphor because some things just need to be said very bluntly, very much in your face. We live in a post-truth culture war era where elites, huge billionaire, trillionaire corporations and entities are actively and intentionally dividing people over the most superficial culture wars because they know that if we're fighting each other, we're not fighting them. I think it just needs to be so direct to say the bottom 99% are not your enemy. Trans people and immigrants aren't the reason your eggs are expensive. They're not the reason you can't afford a house. There's a lot happening in the world that is just being sugar-coated or being deflected, and I feel like people know what's happening, but they're just constantly bombarded by new things to care about and new crises. And I think people just need to say things straight and keep us on the same direct track. And I guess that's what I'm trying to do with this album.
Where do you sort of see yourself as kind of your role as a musician to unite people and bring people together?
I think Nina Simone was the one who said an artist's duty is to reflect the times. I don't necessarily see myself as a person whose role is to unite. I just speak my truth. I feel like that's the best that I can do.
Elon's a fucking weirdo who gave these incels moolah. Spit out your threats and slurs, kid. I'll show you something crueler.
You've been playing a lot of Uno on Instagram, I've seen.
Here and there,
Yeah.
smoking the people when they want smoke.
Okay, so I want to see if you can smoke me as well.
I'll go first, yeah?
All right, 5. Strong start for you. Very, very weak start for me. Why have you been playing Uno?
Just been trying to get face to face with people, you know? I feel like I've been out doing a bunch of random side quests and haven't, been seeing the people that have been supporting me for so long, and I just wanted to, meet people face to face and say hi, smoke them in Uno. I feel like globally, community is an aspect that's not really being prioritized right now, and I think it would just be helpful if that wasn't the case. I think, especially when everything is so polarized, it's so much easier to make a caricature of someone in your mind when, they think this, they say this, they believe this, so they must be like this. It's a lot harder to do that when you can just sit face to face and actually meet them as a human.
He said, rise and shine, to dawn I wake, to cast my net in a fishless lake. Rise and shine, to dawn I wake, casting my net in a fishless lake.
I think there might be a bit of a comeback on here. I'm going to change it to green.
Okay. Yep, all right, and thank you very much.
Good game, man.
Good game.
Our fellow Canberra friends, Teen Jesus and the Gene Teasers, recently posted on Instagram that they had to pull out of a tour due to financial reasons. I'd love to know if you've ever had that sort of financial struggle, and I guess just like your feeling towards like the music industry in Australia and kind of that financial aspect.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend about it, how he's been touring for years, and you used to tour to sell CDs, but now no one buys CDs, so then touring became the actual mode of function, but now touring is so unsustainable, so now you're kind of like rolling around to sell t-shirts, and that's like how you stay alive as a musician. It's not a stable path by any means, but it's one that I've chosen. It's one that I'm pretty happy with. I likened it to the glass bridge in Squid Game. You never know which panel will shatter on you and which panel will keep getting you to the other side. So yeah, just take it day by day. I have no problem going back and driving an Uber or something, or my dad came to the country, brought his 2 young kids, and he was stacking shelves of Woolies. You got to do what you got to do, and especially if I have to choose between keeping my music pure, I'm happy to do the 9 to 5, do whatever I got to do to keep the music the way the music should be.
Speaking kind of back on the financial aspect and also just like marketing and things like that, how big is it to be on social media, and is it something that you want to do?
I'm an introverted person. I like to be in my own space. I don't like to share every single aspect of my life, but it's kind of like what the industry is being led to at the moment. So I'm doing my best to satiate the algorithm in a way that I can, but by keeping it completely myself at the same time. You won't catch me doing the, there's no way. There's no way.
Shorty get inspired, how about that?
I'm curious with like Get Inspired. Obviously, some people probably know you through the KFC ad.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious how your relationship with that song has maybe like changed, or if it's changed at all.
It hasn't really changed. It was like such a jump scare. Like, I can't escape that KFC ad. Like the multiple KFC ads. Every time I'm on YouTube, it's like my own voice. But no, I think I've always loved to recreate things that already exist, including my own music. For example, like with my live shows have gone through a series of iterations with backup dancers and different live bands, rock bands, jazz bands, electronic bands. Right now at the show, we're doing like a drum and bass jungle version of Get Inspired. And you know, that's how I keep it fresh and keep it alive in my heart. So yeah, these songs will never die because I'll always give them a new life.
Look, thank you so much, man.
My pleasure.
So great to speak with you.
And thank you for being gracious in your defeat.